You've probably seen the news by now that Bungie had some major layoffs. Bungie, who was just purchased for $3.6 billion by PlayStation, yesterday announced some major layoffs. Some big boys were included in that layoff. Some veterans of Bungie from back in the Halo days were included in that layoff. And it begs a few questions here. The first question is Sony destroying Bungie? The second question is this the beginning of the end for Bungie? And I think the third question here is, does this represent a shift in the gaming space overall? A shift in who's a player, who's not a player, et cetera, et cetera. That's in relation to the console wars, the Xbox versus PlayStation. I would submit to you that it does represent that shift, and we're going to talk about that here in this video. But before we jump into that, I do want to just address, I think, the layoffs overall. I'm seeing a lot of hot takes. I'm seeing a lot of posts out there hating on the leaders, the executives that have to make these tough decisions. I don't ever want to be in that position. I don't ever have to be the person. I don't ever want to have to be that person making that tough decision. I do work in the gaming industry, though, and I can promise you I have never worked with someone who does not take into account the people loss here, the effect that this will have on people. And when push comes to shove, I do believe that most CEOs, most good CEOs, let me preface that, any good CEO takes that into account. And I promise you, any good CEO of a company does whatever it takes to not have to make that decision, but sometimes push comes to shove and you're forced to make that decision, unfortunately. Now, there's a lot of posts out there, and this is not me defending bad intention or bad faith CEOs. Do they exist? 100% they exist. Is this that? I don't know. I'm not really talking specifically to Destiny here. I'm talking to the wider conversation, because we are seeing, if this was an isolated incident, you could make the argument that this is bad faith, but it's not. We're seeing it across the board, across the gaming and tech spheres. Why are these layoffs happening when they're having these record years? And the answer is the greater macro economy that is taking place right now and the future outlook. A lot of these decisions aren't being made just for right now. They're being made for the future. So for instance, and I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth, I'm just taking a hypothetical here. For instance, if you're Bungie and you're getting record profits, quote unquote, like some are claiming, first of all, there's a difference between record profits and actual revenue. The operational cost to develop a AAA studio game, a game on the scale, size of a Destiny, is astronomical. You're talking R&D, high risk, high reward. You're gambling for the future there. What are we into? What next new features do we bring? How do we make this? I mean, there's a reason that Destiny has sex appeal, that Destiny is one of the best looking games ever. That costs money to get to that. That costs money to hire those talented people to make that a reality. Then when you're talking a live as service game like Destiny, marketing takes up a huge chunk of your budget, of your operational cost, because if people don't come to play your game, you're out of luck. Like, it's probably one of their biggest costs. I bet if you were to look at their financials, marketing would be a huge part of that. Look at the trailers that come out for these AAA games. These trailers put Hollywood to shame a lot of times. That costs a lot of money. And so record profits does not equal record revenue, like take-home profits, right? Record revenue does not equal record profits, however you want to say that. And I think that we take that all for granted. We take all the costs that goes into these AAA titles. We're spoiled in that respect. There's some nuance here, and I just think it's important to keep that nuance in mind before automatically blaming CEOs and executives. I think a lot of tough choices are made at that leadership level, and layoffs are usually, in my experience, they are the last resort. And so, once again, look at where we're at economic wise. What does the outlook look like, right? If you're a Destiny, for instance, your outlook, what does the economy look like a year from now? What does it look like from 2 years from now? You're making decisions to ensure that you have a runway to be able to exist 1 year or 2 years from now. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And so while 2023 might be great, the outlook for the rest of the year does not look great. The outlook, look at inflation. Go to McDonald's. McDonald's is at all-times high in prices. That trickles down everywhere. That's everywhere. Everyone's experiencing that squeeze. Look at the price of housing. Everywhere is experiencing that, including these businesses, including these giant AAA studios like a Destiny, for instance. Not to say that their CEOs are blameless, not to say that there's not accountability that should be there, just to bring nuance to the discussion, because there is a knee-jerk reaction that I'm seeing across the internet that's saying, oh, the CEOs are taking all the money for themselves and they're not giving it anywhere. And it's like this very, okay, maybe that's the case. Or also maybe this was a last resort decision for them. Also, maybe the outlook of the economy. Voting has choices. Voting matters, everybody. Policies have results and have consequences. And unfortunately, we're in a macroeconomic situation that does not look good. That is very bleak going forward. And maybe these decisions, these last resort decisions, were made to ensure that a runway exists to get through this tough time. Just saying. On that, let's talk about, let me know where I'm wrong. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. On that, let's talk about, first of all, let's go through what what these layoffs are actually. And then we'll just look at some of the comments here. So a bunch of people were laid off from Destiny. Destiny is now owned by PlayStation, who bought them for $3.6 billion. Here was a statement from Jason Schreier, who tweeted this out. He was the one to break the story over on Bloomberg. Destiny 2 developer Bungie is the latest PlayStation studio to have layoffs. Full scope isn't clear yet. This was yesterday posted, but CEO Pete Parsons emailed the company this morning to say they'll be having a team meeting today to talk about, quote, some of the news coming out of Bungie as staff are informed. We don't know the total numbers yet. Usually in these things, there's an NDA involved, a severance package that you're given when leaving, and an NDA is attached to that severance package. If you disclose any confidential information, you lose your severance package. So we probably, over the coming days, we may learn what those total numbers are, but we may not. Because of that. Now let's go to, this is Pete Parsons over at Bungie here. Here's what is his title actually? His title is CEO at Bungie. My bad. I didn't realize he was the CEO because I'm a fool. Today is a sad day at Bungie as we say goodbye to colleagues who have all made a significant impact on our studio. What these exceptional individuals have contributed to our games and Bungie culture has been enormous and will continue to be part of Bungie long into the future. These are truly talented people. He continued, if you have openings, I would highly recommend each and every one of them. I mean, that's a typical CEO statement. I'm not sure what else you want from that. Now, that by itself is one thing. But the question on whether or not PlayStation is sinking Bungie or whether or not this is the beginning of the end for Bungie remains to be seen, in all honesty, because you do have, here's Destiny, the final shape. This is the last chapter in the Destiny story that is happening. It has been delayed. Or at least it's being rumored to be delayed, and it looks like it's delayed pretty significantly. So that's hesitation number one, right? Like this layoff is in the shadow of this and this news and the delays happening here. We also have Marathon, which is their other title that they're working on, which honestly I think looks pretty cool. And I'm very excited for. This is an extraction shooter coming. So you jump in, it's like Tarkov. If you've ever played Escape from Tarkov, you jump in with some equipment, you try to get some loot, and you extract. If you die in that while you're in there with your equipment, you lose everything. And you've got to come out. So this is this high risk, high reward scenario, wildly fun genre. Absolutely love it. This too has been pushed back to 2025. So Bungie really doesn't have, if Destiny doesn't drop, Bungie's not like an EA, for instance. It's not like an Ubisoft or a Microsoft or even a PlayStation where there's all these other games happening there. So what Bungie is bringing to PlayStation is Destiny and Marathon. Those two things being delayed is not a good sign. It's going to be interesting to see how where Destiny goes from here, how it's received by the community. Is this delay finalized? The final shape, and what does it mean for industries and fans? I mean, Destiny is the marquee looter shooter. Yeah, it's basically a hybrid MMO, really. I believe it's the 2023 version of Halo. If Bungie was allowed to continue on Halo, this would be the evolution of Halo. I firmly believe that, 100%. So let's talk about the $3.6 billion acquisition from Sony to Bungie. What did Sony hope to accomplish here? I think they wanted to diversify their library. That's been talked about a lot here. They clearly wanted who doesn't want Destiny? Destiny is the marquee games as a service. However, this doesn't look good. You buy them and then you're forced to make these layoffs. There's these delays happening. Maybe Sony requested these delays. Maybe these delays are a part of Sony. Maybe this is part of Sony's restructuring inside of Bungie. Although the CEO of Bungie said at the time that the acquisition meant no restructuring, no layoffs were come as a result of that. I'm sure if it's not tied to that, it is tied to the economy overall. That's probably the talking point that they're using. But is this just a temporary hiccup, or is it a strategic blunder by PlayStation? PlayStation is not known for games as a service. Microsoft has much more of a library of multiplayer games as a service. A Bungie would seem to fit much more naturally inside of an Xbox. It was kind of a question mark with Sony. I think personally, it's probably just a temporary hiccup. I think if I'm being honest, I think Sony, I don't see them letting Bungie die off like some are suggesting. I think it's going to be hard. I think that's just the nature of the situation that we're in. Again, from a macroeconomic scale, I think your one good expansion, your one good final chapter here to the Destiny, to it blowing up again. It doesn't mean that it's the end necessarily. Now, I'm not a hardcore Destiny guy, so I'm not playing Destiny every day, so I'm not up to date on the latest meta, the latest state of the game, or anything like that. I'm a very casual player. I jump in anytime a major expansion picks up, which 99% of the entire player base is probably more in my shoes rather than your hardcore gamers. So, or your hardcore Destiny players that, that's their only game that they play. They play it every day, stuff like that. So they right now, I'm not seeing good things from them. They're not happy, and they're not happy with the current state of the game, and stuff like that. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. I don't see PlayStation letting this die off by any stretch of the imagination. Now, there is the Halo legacy to talk about here with Xbox. Bungie went from being Xbox Jewel ultimately to now kind of a concern for PlayStation, which is interesting. It's a little bit ironic. It's ironic that a former Xbox powerhouse Bungie, where, Halo is this masterpiece, it's synonymous with Xbox, was created and thrived under Xbox and is now seemingly struggling under Sony. In fairness, they may have been struggling before Sony. Maybe that's why they went to Sony in the first place and were acquired. We don't know those behind the scene things, but from the outside looking in, Bungie was a powerhouse under Xbox. They seem to be fledgling under Sony. Can Sony right the ship? Hopefully they can. We do have the game delays. And I think the obvious thing is the comparison, right? Comparing this to Xbox own development issues that they've had. So for instance, I'm thinking Redfall. That's the major one. But then you've got recent titles like Starfield, who absolutely are crushing it. You've got the Activision Blizzard acquisition that just closed. Is Xbox doing better right now? And I think right now, in the month of October, from a perception standpoint, from a momentum standpoint, you would have to say 100%. 100% Xbox is doing better right now. Xbox seems to have this momentum. This news really, I think, puts a dampen on any momentum that Sony may have had. I don't see, even though Sony, Sony fans, if you're a big Sony fan, you're probably in the comments right now saying, what do you mean? Look at all the sales that Sony has. Look at, yes. I'm talking about momentum. Momentum pays off in the future. Momentum is something that you see returns on in the future. All these little decisions add up. All these wins add up over time. You don't see that right away. And I'm talking about momentum here. It does seem that Xbox has the momentum in the gaming space. It seems that they are innovating, that they're creating, that Game Pass is this vision that really more and more people are starting to see, particularly in light of the Activision Blizzard acquisition, in light of Starfield and the success that Starfield has had, in light of a game like Animal Party, who is right now number 10 over on Game Pass, in light of indie developers saying, yes, Game Pass is a great thing for us. It helps us to get an audience and enables us to have a thriving business where it would otherwise be harder, if not impossible. So, again, I think it's important to keep in mind, is this disappointing news? Obviously, it's disappointing news, particularly if you're a Destiny fan. Are you gloating if you're an Xbox fan? Maybe. I don't think it's good to gloat over layoffs, obviously. But it is interesting from the outside looking in who has momentum. Remember, these layoffs are not isolated. These are industry-wide layoffs. So the situation is not unique to Bungie, which is why I would say I think these were probably done in good faith. I think everybody in the tech industry is looking to the future and saying, what does the next year look like for us? What does the next 2 years look like for us? Do we, are people going to have disposable income to spend on our games? And look at the state of the economy. The answer is probably not, or less will. It's tough. It's tough. I don't want to be in that situation. I don't envy anyone for being in that situation. I can't speak to it. In the console wars context, because that's really what we're talking about here with Bungie, with PlayStation and Xbox. Where does this leave the Xbox first PlayStation debate? I think, again, Xbox has the momentum. I think PlayStation, I'm just going to be curious to see where PlayStation goes from here, right? How should Xbox capitalize on this moment, or should they capitalize on this moment? That's a valid question. I think if you're 343, you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I've seen other people say this. You've got huge Halo veterans. Go pick them up if they're available. If you're in a position to do that, the right couple veterans to really bring Halo to the forefront, why not go get the original developers there? I think it could be huge. So is Sony really sinking Bungie? That's the question that we started this. I think it's a question that we're unable to answer. I don't know that they're sinking it. It will be interesting to see where Bungie goes. Time will tell. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's a great success for Bungie. Does this matter? Is this indicative of where we're at in gaming? Is there a shift happening in gaming? The power structure of the console war of the Xbox versus PlayStation, who is driving the ship? I think it is. But I'm biased. I'm an Xbox fanboy. Let me know what you guys think. Is this a $3.6 billion mistake that Sony made in purchasing Bungie? Is it just a bump in the road? Is this strategic? Is it good faith? I may be wrong on that. Maybe it's not good faith. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like this video, if you like what we're doing here, if you like Xbox, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel. My name is X1 the Gamer. We drop videos like this all the time right here on this channel, and I'll see you guys next time.